another mole at the White House. An anonymous senior administration official penning an explosive resistance op-ed in the New York Times of President Trump demanding a name amid calls for that person to resign. Your comments have been pouring in on this one. Kristen tweets this: resign? That person should be fired and thrown out so hard they don't hit Earth again till they're over the Pacific. If they have evidence Trump is incompetent, they should present it with name attached. Otherwise, Trump is the guy who got elected to do the job his way. Jimmy, though, disagrees, writing on Facebook, no, Trump should resign. And Larry says the anonymous official should have resigned before they wrote the editorial. That would have probably been a good idea. But now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Up first, the good. Let's start with that. Man has a new best friend, a lion hopping on a safari ride with tourists in Crimea. Well, the giant cat, you can see him right there, is crawling all over these passengers, giving them lots of affection. The park is known for letting the animals get up close and personal. That's a little much, though, despite a woman actually being bit by a different lion just weeks ago at the same park. And now the bad. Would you like some politics with that? Outrage boiling over after 10 fast food employees in Oregon are welcomed back to work despite violating a policy by wearing pins that read abolish ICE. And no one is illegal. Well, the workers initially were sent home, but the restaurant did an about face after a union called the policy a form of, quote, white supremacy. And finally, the ugly, the empty chair. An empty chair steals the show at a congressional hearing in Washington. Google leaving the seat open after its top executive refused to testify in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee on foreign interference in U.S. elections. Both Facebook and Twitter top executives, as we told you, they showed up. So we'll see what happens to Google after that. Well, that wraps up this hour of Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. Busy day. Whew. Fox and Friends First continues right now, though, because there's more.
I think that whoever wrote this is being incredibly self-indulgent. If you are this person, you really should resign.
All right, it is Thursday, September 6th, and there's a new mole in the White House, and President Trump wants a name.
The hunt is now on for Anonymous, the senior official who released an explosive resistance op-ed to the New York Times.
And Supreme Showdown, the chaotic hearings continuing on Capitol Hill, and the Democrats really fired up.
Crazy few days, how they're taking their attacks on Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the next level.
And how Domino's out-of-the-box idea just backfired big time.
Uh-oh. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Don't you wish you could stop the clock sometimes on summer?
Yeah.
Because in just a few short weeks, all of this hot weather that we're experiencing is going to be gone.
Cold at some point, but not today.
It's going to be snowing at some point.
And I want to point out that the teleprompter said that it was Wednesday.
Right.
And she caught that it was Thursday. I would have never caught that.
I said, wait,
I would have just,
Thursday,
it would have just come out of my mouth. I would have said the wrong day of the week.
And then we're like, is it Thursday? Okay.
It is Thursday, right?
Right, yes.
It better be Thursday.
We think so.
I don't need another Wednesday.
Well, good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on what we believe is this Thursday morning. I'm Jillian Mealy.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us, and what a busy news day it's going to be. President Trump demanding answers after the New York Times publishes a scathing anonymous op-ed.
The article supposedly written by a senior White House official who the president is calling gutless. Jackie Ibanez joins us now with more on how the White House is responding. Boy, Jackie.
Yeah, Robin, Jillian, the anonymously written op-ed suggests all of the administration's success is in spite of the president and not because of him. The author going so far as to say White House officials are actively working against President Trump, writing, quote, President Trump is facing a test to his presidency unlike any faced by a modern American leader. The dilemma, which he does not fully grasp, is that many of the senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. I would know. I'm one of them. President Trump wasted absolutely no time in reacting to the story, which describes him as adversarial, petty, and ineffective.
When you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, no. And the New York Times is failing. Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial.
Citing national security, President Trump called on the New York Times to release the writer's name. In a statement, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said of the author, quote, "He is not putting country first, but putting himself and his ego ahead of the will of the American people. This coward should do the right thing and resign." Some Democrats are speaking out, too, saying this cannot be ignored.
There's someone in the White House who is very afraid that our nation is being damaged on a daily basis. And I think we should take that very seriously.
The op-ed is the latest jab at the president, who was just slammed in Bob Woodward's new book titled Fear, which paints a chaotic picture of the West Wing. Jillian?
All right. Thank you, Jackie. And the Anonymous Times op-ed is the latest of several leaks from the Trump White House.
Co-host on The Five, Dana Perino, worked in the George W. Bush administration and is calling out what she considers the anonymous official's selfish ambition, saying that that person needs to resign now.
I think that whoever wrote this is being incredibly self-indulgent. If you have the privilege to be a political appointee at a senior level in the White House, then you have a moral responsibility and a duty of conscience to resign your post if you disagree. You should not be lapping up the benefits of being a senior administration official. No doubt, while scouting for lucrative opportunities for when you leave your post. If you are this person, you really should resign tonight.
On your comments have been pouring in all morning long on whether or not this White House official should resign. Keep them coming. We are going to air your comments later on in the show.
All right, Judge Brett Kavanaugh gearing up for another day of confirmation chaos.
The Supreme Court nominee standing his ground during intense questioning as dozens of protesters try to disrupt the hearings.
Griff Jenkins is live at the Hart Senate office building with the highlights from day two. Hey, Griff. Hey, nice situation.
Quiet in there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Good morning, Rob and Jillian. You know, Judge Kavanaugh sat here for more than 12 hours yesterday and faced harsh questioning from all 21 members of the committee. The hot topic issues ranged from abortion to executive privilege, even the Mueller investigation and the Second Amendment. And when pressed,
what you said was that these weapons are commonly used. They're not.
They are used and possessed, but the question is, are they dangerous and unusual? Given how prevalent they are in the United States, it seemed under Justice Scalia's test, the Supreme Court made clear that machine guns can be banned.
All right, it looks like we're having an audio issue there with Griff and his microphone. But, I mean, the day yesterday was really focused on executive power, a lot of questions about guns, a lot of questions about abortion. So it was a long day yesterday.
Their concerns, but I think the feeling is that they're starting to feel that I think he's going to get through. And I think a lot of people analyze that basically the Democrats at some point yesterday started to slowly kind of give up on this effort. They know that he's going to be confirmed. But we shall see. Day 3 today.
And the protests continued yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them.
Certainly were. All right, the 5 suspects charged with running a terror compound in New Mexico will stay behind bars for now. A judge delaying their bail hearing until next week so the defense has more time to prepare. All 5 are facing federal weapons charges. 3 of them were rearrested after a judge cleared them of charges because prosecutors missed legal deadlines. You remember that last week. They're accused of training kids to become terrorists while forcing them to live in those filthy living conditions. We are now learning that the illegal immigrant accused of murdering Molly Tibbetts was using an alias at work. 24-year-old Christian Rivera was known as John Bud while working at Yerby Farms in Iowa. That dairy farm now facing questions over whether there were any warning signs that he was here illegally. Police say Rivera confronted Tibbetts while she was jogging. In July, he followed her, later stabbing her to death. He is awaiting trial on a first-degree murder charge.
A Boston police captain's son turned ISIS soldier has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Alexander Chicolo, who went by the name Ali Al-Amriki, was plotting to use assault rifles and pressure cooker bombs to carry out a terror attack on New Mexico State University. Chicolo pleaded guilty in May, 3 years after his father tipped off the feds over concerns of his son's violent rhetoric. South Korea just announcing that President Trump has provided them with a message for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. It's unclear what that message said, but it comes after Korean leaders are planning a third summit to discuss complete denuclearization. North Korea also reiterating it calls for a formal end to the Korean War, which it says President Trump has agreed to. The meeting between Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in will take place in about 2 weeks. The North says it remains committed to a nuclear-free peninsula.
Progressives have knocked out 2 longtime Democratic congressmen, and now they're aiming for an even bigger seat. After upset wins by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley, all eyes are now on Delaware's 3-term Democratic Senator Tom Carper, who faces a challenge in a rare Thursday primary happening today. Political newcomer Carrie Evelyn Harris hoping to unseat Carper, who also served as governor and also in Congress. He's a big name in Delaware. Harris supports Medicare for all and abolishing ICE.
President Trump heading back on the campaign trail today in Montana. He's rallying for State Auditor Matt Rosendale for a U.S. Senate seat. The Republican is going up against incumbent Democrat Jon Tester in the November election. President Trump held a Make America Great Again rally in Montana just last month.
All right, 9 minutes after the hour, caving to pressure. Liberal Mayor Rahm Emanuel bowing out as Chicago's gun violence continues to spin out of control. Chicago native Gianno Caldwell says it is a victory that he is leaving for this city, which he says is in ruins. What he says the next leader needs to bring to the table to make a real difference there.
We can insure all of our people, and we can do it at enormous savings, not only to individuals and to employers, but to the state itself.
Pass it now, pay for it later? Wait until you hear socialist Cynthia Nixon's plan for health care. A major shakeup coming to Chicago after Mayor Rahm Emanuel makes the surprising announcement that he won't be seeking re-election.
This has been the job of a lifetime, but it is not a job for a lifetime.
Emanuel says he's moving on to the next chapter of his life, but critics speculate he's buckling under the pressure of the city's out-of-control murder rate. So what does Chicago need from a new leader? Joining me now is Fox News political analyst and Chicago native Gianno Caldwell. Gianno, thanks for joining us. You've been calling for this. Many people have been calling for this. How pivotal is this moment for Chicago?
It's a victory for all Chicagoans, and I'm really thankful to Fox News because I believe our network has really exposed Rahm Emanuel for what he truly is, which in my opinion is a failed leader. Certainly the murders had an impact on his decision. He said recently, I believe it was yesterday, that it was a failure on his part not to solve that crisis. In addition, I believe that it's been a complete and total failure that he couldn't have solved the crisis when it comes to schools. Especially education is a big problem in the city of Chicago. The property tax issue is a big problem in Chicago. And certainly the pension crisis is a big problem. So when you think about a mayor who should come in ready to solve those greatest issues, he failed on every end. So this was his time to step aside, and I'm glad to see him do it.
Let's stick with the numbers for the shooting so far. And since Memorial Day, just a few short months ago, there have been 1,000 shootings in Chicago. Gianno, what type of person do you think needs to be the next in line to lead this city and to be able to clean up this mess?
Someone who has the intellect, the compassion, and the know-how to handle the issues that impact all residents in the city of Chicago. When we think about that 1,000 number you just mentioned, we must also mention that in 2016, the city had a 71% rate of murders that were not cleared compared to, say, the city of New York, who had a 80% clearance rate, or the national average by way of the FBI, which is a 60% clearance rate. So this is something that obviously must be solved on a major scale. In my mind right now, there's one individual, I believe, who's well suited to be mayor of Chicago, and that person is State Representative LaShawn Ford. Of course, a Democrat, and everyone knows I'm a Republican, but a Democrat that I've known for many years, and the one who we brought the exclusive on Fox and Friends last month when I interviewed at a protest, who said that this Chicago isn't a Trump-free zone. This is an individual who's been looking to work across the aisle and has done so, and who legitimately cares about all the citizens of Chicago.
And what do you think needs to be the first priority? Like, what do you think is a realistic goal to get done immediately once this person is in office?
I think the realistic goal is a multifaceted one. I don't think it's just one in terms of dealing with the violence. I think that's incredibly important because it impacts so many people. But there has to be a multi-pronged strategy in terms of putting together a team that has the know-how in those many facets. You have to be able to not just be a leader that knows those issues, but actually appoint people who have a track record of getting things done. So if I were, say, the mayor of Chicago, the new mayor of Chicago, I would first look and see if my police department is well capable of handling the murders. I would look to reappoint somebody in the Chicago public schools, and certainly I would look to give some reprieve to those who've been dealing with the property tax issue, and in some cases, for some residents, the property tax have doubled. So you want to make sure this thing is consistent across the board and there's equity when it comes to the residents of Chicago.
Yeah, we've spent time talking about police burnout because they've been working day in, day out. They've been doing so much hard work out there. Maybe we'll see you running for mayor one day. Who knows, Gianno? Thanks for joining us.
Who knows? Thank you.
I feel like you could.
Probably could. Yeah, they need some new change. Absolutely. 17 minutes after the hour, mile-high panic. Passengers on a packed plane violently ill, 30,000 feet in the air.
Very, very deep, intense cough, violently sick, going into the bathroom a lot.
This was such a bizarre story. What we learned about what may have made them sick.
And feeling the pinch, a seafood restaurant, we told you about this, firing back with a billboard of its own after PETA tried messing with Baltimore's beloved crabs. Meet the owner who rolled up his sleeves to stick up for small businesses when he joins us live next.
Today, 1-800-731-6634. Online at drstumpgrinder.com.
All right, welcome back. Some type of flu outbreak might be the reason why as many as 100 people were feeling sick on this jet packed with more than 500 passengers. 10 people, including crew members, are hospitalized in New York after arriving on a 14-hour Emirates Airlines flight from Dubai. I bet that was a long flight. Health officials treating passengers on the tarmac at JFK Airport after the pilot reported several passengers were extremely sick. The CDC is still finishing tests to confirm whether or not it was the flu.
Wow.
We'll keep you posted.
Tough flight. Yeah. New surveillance video showing the moment a man repeatedly rams his truck into a TV station. Take a look at this. He intentionally crashed into the side of our Dallas Fox affiliate, slamming into the windows before backing up. And as you can see, crashing into the building again. After going on a rant, police arrested the driver, who does have a long criminal record. He also left behind a bag, which was searched for explosives. It turned out to be safe, but I mean, pretty much the whole building had to be evacuated. They were trying to go on TV, so as I understand, a couple of them were in there trying to do their broadcast. Just must have been chaotic.
That is wacko. I'm curious to see the motive for that one. All right, a small business owner in Maryland is clawing back at PETA over a billboard urging people not to eat crabs.
PETA's billboard reads, "It's not me, it's me, not me." This still throws me off a little bit.
I'm me, not
See
me.
the individual, go vegan. So the owner of Jimmy's Famous Seafood decided to respond with a billboard of his own.
And that business owner, John Miadakis, I had a better one. They didn't have to pronounce. Minadakis, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. Joins us live for coming on this morning. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Maryland is crab country. I mean, this is a big part of your livelihood. What did you think when you saw that billboard?
It was just an attack on our livelihood, an attack on our industry. So obviously, we felt the need to fight back a little bit and, as you said, claw back and defend our honor, defend our livelihood, and most importantly, be able to continue to provide for our employees and the entire industry throughout the state. Thousands of people throughout the state of Maryland depend on the crab industry, whether it be a fisherman, a crabber, a restaurateur like myself, servers, busboys, dishwashers. It goes on and on. The ripple effect is profound. So I was not going to take this line down.
Now we're going to show the image of your billboard that you decided to put up. And as I understand, your father, built this business with his bare hands. And there's the billboard. It says steamed crabs with the me capitalized there. Here to stay, get famous. Just tell us about, how much hard work from your family, from your father went into this business and what would happen if it wasn't there.
Yeah, my father, he was the American dream. He came over here from the small island of Carpathos in Greece with nothing in his pocket, didn't know the language, and he built an empire. He literally built the business from the ground up with his bare hands. Myself and my brothers, we grew up on top of the restaurant. We were born into the business. And, for Peter to come in and think that they can take that away from us and destroy my father's legacy, they were just barking up the wrong tree, honestly.
Okay, here's a statement from PETA regarding their billboard and supporting it. If PETA's billboard encouraged even one Baltimorean to view these complex crustaceans as individuals and go vegan, then it worked like a charm in our mind. So from their end, they're saying they're trying to defend animals. I don't think that they would think that they're trying to put you out of business.
That's what comes along with it.
But that is kind of, that is what it is, right?
Well, I do find it ironic that PETA, a company who's responsible for the death of over 30,000 animals, of course, they've taken animals from homes and slaughtered them, is all of a sudden concerned about the well-being of a crab.
Explain yourself on that comment, sir, just that last comment, that they've slaughtered animals.
Well, if you look it up, it's very easy to see that they are responsible for what they call the euthanization of nearly 40,000 animals over the years. Over 70% of the animals they take in are put down. They're basically a domestic terrorist group, and we were not going to let them come in here. And even if one person turned away from from crabs rather to veganism, that's a customer that's going to take money away from a server trying to feed their family. So, these campaigns do have long-lasting repercussions.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your
so
time this morning. I'm not familiar with that about PETA, but be looking that up.
Thank you very much.
26 minutes after the hour, there's another mole in the White House, and President Trump wants a name. Who is the alleged senior official who released an explosive op-ed to the New York Times? And is this just another attempt to take down the president from the biased media?
We debate it when Chuck Rocha and Ned Ryan join us live coming up next. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The president now tearing into the senior White House official who penned that anonymous op-ed in the New York Times.
When you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, no. And the New York Times is failing. Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial.
Calling it gutless. So is the president correct here? Was the New York Times wrong to publish this op-ed? Here now to debate is Democratic strategist Chuck Rocha and Republican strategist Ned Ryan. Guys, thanks for coming on early this morning. The op-ed actually did say a lot of good things about what the administration is doing, and it seems clear that this is to some extent a conservative that's trying to make progress with the administration. But then the quote here says, but these successes, when talking about things like the deregulation and the tax cuts that he said were good things, have come despite, not because of, the president's leadership style, which is impetuous, adversarial, petty, and ineffective. Ned, we want to start with you on this. What did you make of this? I mean, this really made a lot of waves, the fact that this was published.
Well, first of all, these things did happen because of Donald Trump. And the American people had a lot of different choices in 2016, and they chose Donald Trump, and it's because of him that these things have taken place. But I think what the New York Times demonstrated again yesterday is that it wants to be the leader of the opposition party against Trump by running this anonymous op-ed by someone who I think is a self-indulgent coward And again, it's another attempt, I think, to destabilize our democracy and undermine the duly elected president of the United States. Rob, I would also say that I think this is just another episode in the continuing civil war between this establishment ruling class, whoever this person is, and the media, deciding who's going to control and run our government. Is it Trump and his supporters who put him into office, or is it these entrenched bureaucrats? Because we don't really know who this person is. We don't know if this is a political appointee or somebody that is a federal government employee somewhere in the administration. But I will say this. The American people had a choice in 2016. They rejected the bipartisan globalism that has sold out the American taxpayer repeatedly. And this person, whoever it is, I think has a moral obligation to resign. And if they feel this strongly about this, Rob, they need to resign and then go out and see if they can push the 25th, invoking the 25th and working towards impeachment if they feel that strongly about this.
Hey, Chuck, I want to ask you, I mean, it seems like this guy is in there trying to do a lot of the things the administration wants to do and is saying that we're trying to save the country from some of the reckless things that the president wants to do. He's not full resistance. He's not a liberal, mole in the White House. What do you think?
I think it's crazy times that we're living in when you have an op-ed like this in the New York Times to begin with. First of all, I think it's a good test of our democracy, and I think that it's good and a reminder to people why we actually have a free and open press. I don't always agree with them either, but I ain't running around with my hair on fire, if I had some hair, saying that they're the fake news, right? So what we should be thinking about is exactly what this guy or this girl is trying to accomplish. I do think that they are somewhat of a senior official. They wouldn't have the information that they have, and I think that they're trying to cover their own butt. The only thing I will agree with on this is that they should come out. They should come out of the shadows. They should talk about what's going on. If they're that worried about our democracy, and let's be clear, I disagree with Donald Trump on about 90% of everything that he stands for, but he's still the president. Let's have that open and fair debate, because we all want America to do something that's really good, but we need to be having this debate in the open and not in the shadows.
Ned, the president calls the media the fake news, which I detest when he says that. But at the same time, he says this is treasonous. Is that too far?
I would actually, about the New York Times, I wouldn't go that far about this person. I would say if they are part of this administration and they are working to destabilize, I think that this is egregious behavior, Rob. I would say it borders on the treasonous. But I want to say this about the press.
How do you think this is treasonous, Ned?
Because they are going and undermining the duly elected president of the United States, who was put into office by the American voters through the process that we have laid out through our Constitution. But I will say this. We all want a free press, Rob. We want an honest press. We want them to be honest about who they are and why they're doing things. And I think they're being deeply dishonest, the New York Times and others, by what they are doing right now.
Okay. Interesting perspective, guys. Thank you so much. We do have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we're getting heavy in the show. Thank you so much. Jillian, over to you. Thanks.
President Trump meeting with dozens of sheriffs from across the country who are urging Congress to act on immigration reform. The president praising them for keeping law and order.
Crime statistics are down. We're really doing well, other than you take a couple of places on our nation where they have different policies than what we would put, and you know where I'm talking about. But there are a couple of places they don't believe in what we believe. But we have together done something very special.
The president presented with a plaque featuring a badge and the inscription, "There's a new sheriff in town." The TSA standing by its controversial Quiet Skies program, the agency's head telling lawmakers on Capitol Hill that it has made air travel safer despite not foiling any terror plots. The program, launched in 2011, follows some passengers who are flagged because of specific affiliations or travel history, resulting in some being placed on terror watch lists. Well, it's that time. The NFL is back tonight, and the new season kicks off with the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons. Sorry. The kickoff not coming without some bad news, though, for New England Patriots haters, all courtesy of Tom Brady.
I would love to play 5 more years. I'd love to play 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. It'll be a challenge for me. I think it's going to be very hard to do.
Oh, the 41-year-old wonder is currently entering his 19th NFL season. He opens the year against the Houston Texans on Sunday.
And there's going to be a Colin Kaepernick commercial tonight as well.
Yes.
All right, a new hurricane threat barreling through the Atlantic. Hurricane Florence strengthening to a Category 4 storm as it heads toward Bermuda. 3 or 4. No warnings for the U.S. just yet.
Janice warned us about this and this as the focus turns to dangerous flooding while Tropical Depression Gordon makes its way farther north. The Midwest now on alert for heavy rain after the storm drenched the Gulf.
Janice Dean tracking both of these storms and joins us now with what we can expect. And Florence is getting powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it fought with dry air yesterday. We didn't think it was going to get to a Cat 4, which is what we saw yesterday afternoon. Down to a 3 right now, but it's defied the odds because we thought this was going to be a much weaker storm. Some wind shear in the way that could tear it apart a little bit, but still a 3 major hurricane. We think coming very close to Bermuda Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you have plans going to Bermuda, you may need to reassess this weekend. There are the tropical models. So as you can see, as we go further out in time, coming a little too close for comfort with some of these computer models to the East Coast. So that's why we need to watch it. We'll watch it over the weekend, and then we'll certainly, alarm via bells if we need to. Here is Hurricane Norman. This is in the Pacific, coming very close to Hawaii. And then we've got Olivia behind Norman, and Olivia could actually come a little bit closer to the Hawaiian Islands. So we need to watch Olivia. Norman's going to move north and west and weaken. And there's your forecast today. What's left of Gordon being absorbed in a cold front that's eventually going to come towards the East Coast. And if I could end on a nice note, we have some cooler temperatures on the way for the Northeast. So there you go. So it's going to be 91 here in New York today, 71 on Saturday.
So active right now.
And then we will
watch a light
watch
jacket on Saturday.
Maybe a light jacket. Okay. But I have to tell you, you're going to see a lot of me because hurricane season is just getting its act together.
Hurricane Janice. All right.
We welcome more Janice as long as it's though not
what we can do.
Dangerous for people.
All right.
Thank you. It is 38 minutes after the hour. Silicon Valley in the hot seat. Twitter and Facebook's top bosses grilled on Capitol Hill.
Last week, Kurt the Cyber Guy outlined the top 5 questions that should be asked. He's back to grade them, and he's live next.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. Why accept?
Hope you're having a good morning so far. Welcome back. Cynthia Nixon championing a single-payer healthcare system as she vies to become New York's next governor.
Healthcare is a human right. We can insure all of our people, and we can do it at enormous savings, not only to individuals and to employers, but to the state itself.
All right, so now we're learning her plan. She tells the New York Daily News editorial board she doesn't have one, saying, quote, pass it and then figure out how to fund it. But a recent study of Bernie Sanders' federal Medicare for All plan showed it will cost the country more than $32 trillion over 10 years.
All right, a student is taking her lawsuit to heart. Polly Olson is suing Northeast Wisconsin Technical College after they stopped her from passing out Valentine's Day cards with Bible verses back in February.
I love my school, and I hate to do this, but I love my freedom and my country and God more.
The school says Olson was handing out messages in unauthorized locations on campus. She says it's her First Amendment right.
Chief executives from Twitter and Facebook grilled on Capitol Hill by lawmakers wanting to know how the social media giants plan to fight off foreign influence in the U.S. elections.
So what were the key moments yesterday? Here with his grades, the cyber guy, Kurt Knudsen. Hey, Kurt, we're starting off with Facebook
hey, Rob, Julian.
and Russia, right?
We are. And, the fact of the matter is 2 committees got together yesterday, the Geeks to Washington and a noticeably empty seat. But first, you heard from Twitter's Jack Dorsey, and then it was really the one we wanted to hear from, Facebook's number 2, Sheryl Sandberg, and she was in the hot seat.
Russia used social media as part of, and I quote, a comprehensive and multifaceted campaign to sow discord, undermine democratic institutions, and interfere in U.S. elections and those of our allies. We were too slow to spot this and too slow to act. That is on us.
How do you grade that one, Kurt?
Tell me something we don't already know, please. All right. So that was one moment with her on Capitol Hill. But the fact of the matter is, I give her a C. A C because in the past I would have given them a D or an F. And the fact of the matter is, Facebook has years of their disingenuous idea that they were being sincere and protecting us. and they were just full of it. And now they're actually starting to do something. I see some promise on the horizon. I see some action behind the words, and I think Facebook realizes for the very first time the effort to control this massive machine that turns content into weapons is really in their responsibility. They're finally owning the responsibility.
Wow.
She gets to see.
All right, let's talk about Twitter right now, because over the last few weeks anyway, there's been so much conversation about shadow banning, about conservatives, you know, the algorithms and Twitter bias. So let's hear from Jack Dorsey, because this is someone who everyone wanted to hear from.
The allegation that we make, the Republicans, is that you're discriminatory against us, against the Republicans.
We agree that the result was not impartial, and that is why we corrected it and we fixed it.
So you do agree that there were more Republicans than Democrats?
I didn't say that, but I do agree.
Well, you...
He kind of did, though, right?
You know, there's something cool about Jack Dorsey. There's something really refreshing about Twitter CEO just fessing up and pierced in front of Congress. So, I mean, I just want to say, you know, he's admitting it right out of the box. He says, yeah, I'm lefty. Yeah, our culture at Twitter is far to the left also. We should probably address that. And he actually sees it rather than denies it. And that, I think, is refreshing. And for him and for his participation in really bringing the Kumbaya moment together, I give him a higher grading of about let's say a B.
Okay, but what about for Twitter's algorithms?
So bad. We got to still give it an F. So long as these tech giants keep their algorithms behind a dark veil of secrecy, and, you know, he gave some lame answer to when somebody was looking. You know, my questions were all about specifics. He gave some lame answer that was, oh, it's constantly changing, so I can't possibly identify what goes into our algorithm. Please. Yes, you can. And the fact is, you just don't want to. And you keep all of us in the dark by doing so.
And Google didn't even show. That was fun. Let's listen in.
Empty seat there. Sundar Pichai and also Larry Page, the founder of Google, denied the invitation, and they earn a D. I mean, they looked almost like an F. They were just glaringly absent, especially when it really was the first time I think we saw government and technology coming together on the same page and made some progress.
All right. Lots to break down.
A D for not showing up. Boy, if only that worked in school.
Yeah, right. I believe I would get an F in school if I didn't show up.
See you guys soon.
Thanks,
Kurt. So much. Let's check in with Steve Doocy. He showed up.
And he always gets an A.
That's right.
Always.
But there's an empty seat right next to me for the guy from Google if they want to show up during the 3-hour telecast. Hey, good morning to you, Rob, and Jillian as well. Coming up on Fox and Friends, who the heck is this Trump traitor inside the administration who wrote that op-ed yesterday? A lot of people apparently inside the White House have already devised a list. They're looking at the speech patterns. They're trying to figure it out. Of course, it is making big news, and it's going to be our lead story today. We're going to talk to Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, about just that. Same thing with Dana Lash. Also, Senator Ted Cruz has been in the room for the Kavanaugh hearings, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're going to talk to him about that as well. Plus, if you haven't seen the brand new Colin Kaepernick Nike ad, we're going to run it coming up because it's going to run tonight on Thursday Night Football.
All right.
Okay.
See you in about 13 minutes, Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm worried I can't.
Gone. A Republican congressman turns auctioneer and going viral for shutting down a rowdy right-wing protester at the tech hearing yesterday on Capitol Hill.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115. Here with the reaction to Missouri Representative Billy Long. Good morning, Carly.
Hey, good morning, guys. You know, a lot of news was made during yesterday's social media hearings, but one of the stranger headlines to come out of this whole thing has to do with a congressman and his now not so hidden talent. Missouri Congressman Billy Long using his old auctioneering skills to drown out a protester. Take a look.
That is why he is censoring and shadow banning. How about a damn 12 and a half, 15, 7 and a half, $20, 2 and a half, 5, 7 and a half, 30. Yep, $30 down here, 2 and a half, 5, 35, 7 and a half, 40. Yep, $40, 2 and a half, 5, 45, 7 and a half, 50.
Well, social media, of course, loving that moment. Lacey on Twitter saying, Billy Long, can the Kavanaugh hearings borrow you for a while? And Kraft on Twitter also saying he's hired from this day forward. He is assigned to all hearings that may require his services. You know, these hearings do kind of drag on a little bit, so I could see where his skills could really be pretty useful.
That's kind of funny. I don't know. Maybe this is your hidden talent.
Yeah,
Who knows?
if I could say anything.
All right. So we've been talking a lot about Colin Kaepernick and Nike this week, and now there's a commercial.
Yeah, Nike is going to release that controversial commercial featuring Colin Kaepernick, despite calls to boycott the brand. Here's a sneak peek.
Don't become the best basketball player on the planet. Be bigger than basketball. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything.
So the commercial features Kaepernick highlighting inspirational moments in sports. It will air during tonight's NFL season opener. And there is, of course, some outrage on social media over this whole thing. Bruce says someone needs to define sacrifice for them. Hashtag Nike boycott. Colleen tweets, I refuse to even watch it. And Kenny also chiming in saying, don't slander police officers. Nike is on the wrong side of history. Nike, or boycott Nike rather. Now, on the other side of that, Nike tweeted out the commercial, and it's received over 300, or nearly, I should say, 300,000 likes. So there is some support out there.
Interesting in that commercial, and I mean, we haven't seen the whole thing, but it looked like he was standing in front of the flag in that commercial.
There you go. There's a lot of hidden messages, and you're right, that is certainly one of them, Jillian.
Hey, it's going to be a really exciting NFL season, and we're going to get to analyze it every week. All right, we've got Kim Kardashian and another big meeting.
Yes, Mrs. West, I should say, heads to Washington once again. Yes. Kim Kardashian West, she was at the White House yesterday to talk prison reform, and she tweeted about it, saying it started with Miss Alice, but looking at her and seeing the faces and learning the stories of the men and women I've met inside prisons, I know I couldn't stop at just one. It's time for real systemic change, of course. She met with President Trump earlier this year and successfully got the prison sentence of Alice Marie Johnson commuted, so she is still working towards that effort.
All right. Thanks, Carly.
Thanks a lot, guys.
6 minutes until the top of the hour. Free pizza for life? What could go wrong? Rob, what could go wrong?
Apparently a lot for Domino's. How they just realized they got the short end of the breadstick. Get it?